Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live edition of Talking Pauper. I'm glad that you could join us. Um, Hopefully, we'll see some folks coming in a little bit later, and I'll be able to share more information with you. Right now, I am getting ready to check my volume here, make sure everything looks all right. Sorry, I can't tell if the volume's good or not. So, anyway, once again, like I said, welcome to this live edition of Talking Pauper. As I had mentioned in the blog, this has been a really, really eventful week. Um, the Pauper Circuit Council has been talking a great deal with Howard Brock about making sure we had everything on the same page and make sure we were going in the same direction. And so I'm sure many of you have noticed the announcement that he put up in regards to state and provinces format change, where the second states is going to be run in Pauper Age Modern with what's considered a Highlander rule. You will have noticed I have actually already gone and updated the documents as far as the format change. I'm going to make the official announcement on the HeroClix Pauper League today in regard to the change in format. Yes, we are going to a unique format for Pauper. A few reasons why we did that. One, of course, there was a lot of complaints in regards to the Medusa Giant Girl teams. We did see that as an issue that we wanted to get resolved. We did have several ideas that we threw out as far as how we were going to go ahead and solve that problem. But ultimately, it was decided based on what the players, were calling for, that perhaps it is time to go ahead and go Highlander. So we have defined that as hold on just a moment. I'm trying to find it in the document. During forced construction, all characters become unique characters per the HeroClix rulebook. Specifically, you may not include more than one copy of a specific character with the same name, set symbol, and collector's number between your starting force and starting sideline. So this is the specific definition of what we're talking about when we're referring to that Highlander rule, the unique setup that we are working for in the new game. I have on the resources page that you can find on the ClickSbait homepage, you can actually find updates on what this means as far as the changes are concerned. The document has already been placed up there, so you can download that at any point in time. Also, just pointing out that does change some of the game elements that you can bring in, because not because of the unique side of things, but we also opened up the teams that were going to be built there to include the fast forces pieces and starter set pieces. We decided that since the field was going to be shrunk as far as the pieces that you could use, we needed to do a little something to expand what you could bring into play on this note. There was discussion over adding rares to the mix. Ultimately, it was decided against adding rares, not because we felt that any rare piece in and of itself was too powerful, but we were concerned with what would happen to the cost of the game if we started allowing the rare ID cards. So that was the ultimate breaking factor in what prevented us to allow the rares in the scenario, in case you have those questions. Couple of interesting things that allows now. It will allow Rusty and Skids from the Fast Forces to be allowed in. It will also allow the equipment, the Asgardian Shield, to be added to your forces if you wanted to use those. A little bit of a clarification on the maps has also taken place. Because these are rock events, all of the rock maps that are currently legal for rock events are legal for the Pauper Circuit events. So that list has been updated on the Pauper Circuit information page. And that also means that now that we have cleared up that issue, Medusa is no longer on the Pauper Circuit investigative review list. So there are currently no pieces that are under review. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on how things progress now that we have changed the format of the game. We'll be looking to see exactly what it is that may need attention. That was one of the conversations that took place while we were discussing whether or not to go with this unique format. We wanted to be sure that we didn't create a new problem while we were getting rid of another problem. So something that we're going to definitely keep an eye on. Let's see, other things that you may need to know as I go through the document. You may find this hard to believe, but I don't have it memorized. Alongside the announcement of the state championships and what will be a national championship as well for the Pauper Circuit, working with Howard Brock and The Rock, we've decided that we are increasing the value of the state's championships. So now the top 8 places will receive Pauper Circuit points. First place will now get 10 points in the state championships only. The regular winner maps are still going to be 5 points, 3 points, 1 point. State championships are going to be 10 points for first place, 7 points for second place. Third and fourth place are each going to receive 3 points. Fifth through eighth place will receive 1 Pauper Circuit point. And then the best painted team, whereas normally it gets 3 points, will receive 5 points for these state championship matches. The judges who report their standings on time will receive 5 points as well instead of the normal 3. Now, with the expansion of the Roll in the Rock here, the tournaments are actually going to become bigger. And having said that, we want to encourage more and more people to play. So the national championship format is going to change. We don't have a definitive handle on exactly what that's going to look like yet. But what we do know is it is going to be very, very similar to what you've seen, say, at the national championships at Origins, where there are events that you can play into the Pauper Circuit tournament. Now, the people who win the championships, the East and West championships, the top 4 players are going to receive buys in those events to show their success up to that point and make sure that they are rewarded for that success. The pricing is going to change for these events. They are going to fall in line with what you have seen for the state championships, and then for the national championships. It's going to expand the pricing for that, but we are still going to include a case of HeroClix boosters in with that whole prize pool there. Now, that being said, of course, there are always questions. There are common questions that we have heard anytime the Highlander format is brought up. There are also questions that we've run across as far as Pauper in general. And we wanted to be sure that we took the opportunity to answer those questions. And so now on the Pauper Circuit details document, you're going to find an FAQ. This is going to be a document that we're going to change over time. As we get more questions, we are going to actually go ahead and update that document and let you know what it is that's changing, how it's changing, and answer questions that we get along the way. So I'm actually going to read off these FAQs just for clarity's sake, and there are only a few of them right now. So want to go ahead and make sure that you're aware of what the answers to these questions are. So first up, some pieces allow you to bring in multiple copies of game elements. Are these legal in Pauper Circuit? Yes, some pieces, for example, Crime Master from the Earth X set, may bring in characters or other game elements from outside the game. For example, Crime Master brings in hired flunkies. While you may only have one copy of the character causing this effect on your force during force construction, the rules do not prevent you from bringing in multiple copies of hired flunky through his New York crime boss trait. So yes, you can bring in multiple pieces based off special abilities as long as it's not during force construction. So another example that may clarify the difference a little bit would be Loki from the Mighty Thor, number 002. During force construction, you would not be able to use his God of Trickery trait, which allows you to pay 10 extra points to bring in a kind of a clone, an illusion of Loki, okay? Due to the unique set number involved, because essentially what you would end up with is the one piece at the normal starting dial and then another piece at a different starting dial, but it's the same set number. Therefore, they would not be allowed to be on the board at the same time. However, after gameplay has begun, you may use his special power, you just keep falling for this, don't you, to generate new Loki characters on the map, because those are not part of your sideline. These are things that you can bring in just based on the roll. At no point in time says that those pieces have to be on your sideline to be able to be brought in. Next question, can I use equipment or ID cards? Many of you already know the answer to that question is yes, providing the equipment is of the appropriate rarity, meaning it was distributed with a character that was either common or uncommon, or that equipment came in a fast forces or starter set. ID cards may be used if both the card and the character being brought in are of the appropriate rarity. For example, you may use the Rusty ID card to bring in either the Rusty from the main set, number 014, or Rusty from the Fast Forces set, which is 005, as these are game elements that fall within the allowed rarity. You may not, however, use the all-new Wolverine ID to bring in all-new Wolverine number 036, as all-new Wolverine is a rare game element. You may also not use the Beast student ID card to bring in the Beast from Regenesis, number 005, because while, yes, Beast falls under the common clause, the ID is not a currently legal ID. It was not a common card. It was actually a convention exclusive. Another asked question, can my force and sideline include characters with the same name from different sets? Yes. For example, a team can include both Cyclops, collector number 001 from the X-Men Xavier School set, and it can include the Cyclops from the Fast Forces set, number 002, as both have different set symbols and collector numbers. Okay. Can my force include a character on the main force and the same character on my sideline? No. During force construction, each piece is considered unique and therefore may not be copied in the sideline per the HeroClix rulebook. For example, you may not have Rusty number 014 on your main force and have Rusty number 014 on your sideline for a call-in. You may, however, have the Fast Forces Rusty on the sideline to be called in, as they don't share the collector number or set symbol. Another very, very common question that we get asked, are map bonuses legal in Pauper Circuit play? Yes. You may use the map bonuses that are printed on some maps, provided you pay the associated point costs. And finally, are rock maps legal for Pauper Circuit play? As all Pauper Circuit events are rock events by definition, all maps legal in rock events are also legal in Pauper Circuit events. So those are just a few of the questions that we generally get asked on what the change is going to mean. We are very excited about where this is going to lead Pauper. We're very happy to be working with Howard Brock and figuring out exactly what this is going to do to change the Pauper Circuit. But we're anxious to keep things rolling and see how this is going to work over the course of the year. We've just started season 2 pretty much. So we're learning as we're going, and we're very happy with where things have been going so far. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to go ahead and type it in, and we will be happy to answer those questions. Or I guess I will be happy to answer those questions since I'm the only one here. But these are things that are going to we're going to be looking at moving forward. There was something else that I was going to mention. Give me just a moment. Also wanted to point out on the ClickSbait homepage, I have changed the build archives, and so now all of the teams that once were part of the current Pauper circuit builds have been moved into the other builds section. You will notice that I do not, at the current time, have any legal Pauper circuit builds in there. We're waiting to see what some people come up with. I have had one person ask me about their build, but they haven't given me permission to post that, so I'm not doing that until they've actually had a chance to play that in an event. Keep in mind, there are some people who are planning on doing a Pauper event as Highlander before we even went to the new format. So for those of you who are running those events, if you want that included in the Pauper circuit, that is perfectly okay. Just send me your information. I will be happy to go ahead and promote that event for you and help you out in getting some players out there. When you succeed, we succeed. And this is something that I think is accessible to everybody. So I really want to give players a chance to get involved in the game and bring in new players. So that is the big news. That is what we have been working on over the past, I would say, week and a half. Again, we are very, very excited to see where this is going to lead in the future. I did have one question that was asked, and I think it may have already been answered, but we'll double check here just a moment. Okay, so Paul Cote asked the question on his mind: with such good X-Men figures, will Medusa still need a ban? Well, of course, the problem has kind of resolved itself now, simply because Medusa doesn't need to be banned if she's limited to one on a team. And she's still a very, very good, very, very efficient figure. A lot of people I have spoken to are still planning on building Avengers teams based around a Alpha Strike with Medusa and Crystal. So that is still a very, very viable build: Medusa, Crystal, and Voyager. And that's only 150 points, so you still have room to throw in some good support pieces. I think some people have mentioned AIM Agent White. So these are no great surprise. I think it also, keeps the door open for Mystical. I know a lot of people aren't talking about that, but there are some good Mystical pieces out there. If you find the right tentpole, then you've got plenty of cheap support with Alex Wilder, Billy Batson. There was one other piece that Captain Britain from the Fast Forces set on Earth X. These are all pieces that I think would be very solid additions to any Mystical team that you might want to go through. I did miss one of the frequently asked questions. Can I use a legal game element to bring in a piece I otherwise would not be able to use? And of course, the answer to that is no. The prime example of this would include Billy Batson from Rebirth, who can ordinarily bring in Shazam through the use of his Shazam special power. But he can't do that in this format, as Shazam is not legal in this format. and he does have to be on the sideline anyway, so it's not something that you could bring from outside of the game anyway. So that is another piece that another question that we get asked a lot, that I wanted to go ahead and give you guys the answer on. So what do I think is going to change now that we've gone to a Highlander format? How do I think the game's going to look? I don't have as clear of a definition of that as I would very much like to have. Personally, I have a feeling that we're going to see some tentpole teams pop up now. I do know that the Avengers Alpha Strike is something that a lot of people are still talking about, even without being able to run multiple Medusas. But I also think that there are some big figures out there that could make some noise. One of the things that I think could make some noise is the Chinese Superman from Rebirth. I think he has got some potential. The only problem that I have with him is that he cannot be perplexed or probed by characters that don't have the Justice League China keyword. That's the biggest limitation on that character. But then again, being able to add +2 to one of his stats at the start of the turn can make his defense pretty brutal, or his attack, or his damage. He's got some potential there to cause problems for whatever team. I've heard some talk about Proxima Midnight might cause some problems. That's something that would be interesting to look at a possible team build on that as well. I do welcome anybody who would like to send team builds to me to include in the archives. I will be more than happy to add those to the archives and definitely give you the credit for those team builds, like I've done with all of the other teams that you find in the archives on the ClickSbait page. Let's see. Now, we are not changing the dates on the East and West championships. Those are we're still going to do the cutoff on the Pauper Circuit points for Season 2 in June. June 1st is the cutoff on those points. At that point, we're going to determine who is qualified for the East and Western tournaments. We are still in negotiations for where those events are going to be held, but I do have a 99% certainty at this point that I do know where they're going to be held. So it's not going to be something that will be held secret for terribly much longer. I am hoping by the end of September, I will be able to tell you exactly where and when those events will be. But we're really looking forward to those. We're looking for a very competitive season, and we're hoping to welcome a lot of new players to the format. One thing that I do want to encourage venues who are running the event, in order to encourage new players, I love the idea. I mean, we all have this box of commons that we're not using. And if you're running a Pauper Circuit event, don't hesitate to have that box with you. And you've got a player who's curious about HeroClix, go ahead and set them up with a team. It's not difficult to do. It's not expensive to do. And you may get somebody, hooked on it just off of one event. And it's something that we've done at Rusty Scabbard before. We've helped new players out in getting interested even before we were running the Highlander rules. So this is a way to introduce people into the game without beating them over the head with the money pieces, the Q primes and the chases and all of that, and letting them get a taste of what competitive play is like without having them get absolutely destroyed because they just couldn't compete with the pieces that they're seeing on the table. The other thing is the commons and uncommons also tend to be less complicated. Yes, they do have some special powers on them, but for the most part, they're not terribly difficult special powers to understand. They're things that you can just look at the powers and abilities card and say, oh, okay, I've got willpower and I've got toughness. Okay, I understand what we've got going on here, and we can roll with this without having too deep an explanation into what that means. Other than that, that's about all that I have for you guys today. I want to thank those of you that have tuned in and watched this, and those of you who come back and watch this later. If you do have any more questions, you can feel free to go ahead and send them to Pauper Circuit at digitaledengames.com. I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you might have at that point in time. Um, if you have events that you want to promote, you can go ahead and send me the information there as well, and I'll be happy to get that information out there. And don't hesitate to send us any complaints, any criticisms. We are happy to take what you have learned from your events and use that to make the game better. That's what our goal is. Our goal is to make this a format that is enjoyable and easily attainable. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great night. Oh, you snuck that in there, Jesse. I almost slipped away. My X-Men animated top pick. Well, it's not a Pauper pick for me. I am actually looking for. I'm looking forward to that Magneto. I think that Magneto is going to be beautiful. Okay. With that, again, I will say good night, and we may do this again. We'll just have to see how it goes. For Pauper, I'm not as sure. I don't know exactly what's going to be in that set. I haven't had as much time to study the set as some other folks have because I was kind of busy trying to get everything rolling as far as getting the details squared away on the circuit. So I am sadly uninformed right now, but I'm looking forward to playing this weekend in the World Championships so that I can get into some of those battle royals and see what some of those pieces are about. Anyway, you have a good night, and I will talk to you guys later.